I seek refuge in God from the accursed Satan. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Let's read this introduction part one more time, inshallah. This is the treatise on nature. Introduction. O human, know that there are terrible words coming out of people's mouths that smell of godlessness. There are terrible words that smell of atheism. There is a sentence in the Muhakimat that says, a person's style of expression is the image of their self. It is their personality. So if a word is coming out of a mouth or has reached the point of being spoken, even if it's said unknowingly, it still gives you an idea about that person. It shows that perhaps they are weak in their understanding of these issues. There are terrible words coming out of people's mouths that smell of godlessness. Believers use them without realizing it. There was a definition of faith in Isharatul Ijaz. It says the existence or non existence of faith is understood through questioning. For example, if you ask a simple common man about this universe, which is created by the artist and is completely under his power and control, if you ask him, could nature be the creator of this in any way? If he says, no, in no way is that possible, it cannot be, that is sufficient. Meaning, when you look at everything in the universe, all the creatures, all the particles, the matter, the forces, everything is under the control of God. If you ask, could these things take God's place? Could they be a creator? Can we attribute any real influence to things within creation? Knowing that real influence belongs only to God, if the answer is, in no way it cannot be, then that shows the aspect of denial of false gods is fixed in his conscience. For example, this tree grows, it develops, it gives fruit. If asked, can this tree grow without the manifestation of God's power? Can these fruits exist without him? And he says, if God's power doesn't manifest, it absolutely cannot happen. This indicates he has faith. But still, a person's style of speaking should match that faith. Yes, otherwise, if in his own world he starts attributing things to causes, to nature, over time, those ideas might strengthen and damage his faith. That's why one needs to read books like the Nature Treatise very well and completely remove those ideas from their mind. We will explain three of the most important ones. First, creation by causes. Causes invent this thing. Second, formation by itself. It forms on its own, it just happens. Third, requirements of nature. It is natural. Nature requires it and creates it. What exactly this means will become clearer as we read the impossibilities later on. Yes, since beings exist and cannot be denied, and every being comes into existence with art and wisdom, and since they are not eternal but are newly created, in any case, O seeker of truth, you will either say that the causes in the world create this being, meaning this being comes into existence through the gathering of causes, or it forms itself, or it comes into existence through the influence of nature as a requirement of nature, created by the power of an all-powerful, majestic God. Logically, there is no other way aside from these four. Now look at the method here. If the first three ways are proven to be impossible, invalid, and unfeasible, let's take a simple example. Say there are 4 cups, they are turned upside down, We say there is a date or an olive under one of them. If we show you three of them and they are empty, then it becomes certain that it is what is under the fourth one. Or let's say a crime was committed in a place where there are only 4 people and no one else. If it is shown that those 3 people couldn't have done it, maybe through fingerprints or they weren't there, if it's proven they didn't do it, it automatically reveals that the fourth one did. It's the same here. If the first 3 ways are proven impossible, and the nature treatise does exactly that, it proves it definitively, then clearly and self-evidently the fourth way, the way of God's oneness, becomes established without a doubt. Yes, now we come to where we left off yesterday. As for the first way, the idea that the gathering of causes in the world creates things. Here, a person sees causes coming together and the result appearing. He looks and says, see, the causes gathered and the result happened. Therefore, the gathering of causes did this. Okay, the causes might have gathered, but their gathering is actually a prayer. It is not something that produces the result. For example, let's say air, water, and soil come together and a seed becomes a tree. Can we say that the water and soil read the program inside that tiny seed and then, based on that, shape the tree's branches, leaves, and fruit? Of course, their existence is necessary, but their existence is just a law placed by God. People see the surface, but don't see the manifestation of power there. So they think the causes are enough. But what is the real truth? The gathering of causes is a prayer for the creation of the effect. We bring causes together. For example, we bring air, water, and soil to the seed. What are we doing? The causes take a position, and that position becomes like a request, a tongue of disposition, asking the Almighty God for the result. God has said, if you bring these causes together in this way, I will create this result. We bring the causes together, performing an act of prayer, and God creates the result. For example, water, heat, soil, light. They take a position around a seed. That position is the tongue of prayer that says, "O our Creator, make this seed into a tree." Let's not make a mistake in the analogy, but think about a construction site. If we bring together iron, cement, soil, sand, and water for a building, just by dumping the bricks and cement and stone together in a pile, will a beautiful 8-story or 10-story building appear? Does their coming together result out in the building? They came together, yes. But you need a master, an engineer, someone with knowledge and art to work there. Then the work appears. Now, a tree is much more wonderful than an apartment building. A tree is a factory. It's a fruit factory, a flower factory. Its roots, branches, trunk, each is a miracle. The coming together of things like water, air, and soil is not the real cause of such a tree appearing. So what is it? It is a prayer. Water, heat, soil, light gather around a seed and say, "O Creator, make us a tree." Because that tree is a wonderful miracle of power. Look at how the tree takes muddy water from the roots and presents delicious fruits like pure milk at the ends of the branches. A tree is truly a miracle. Such a wonderful work cannot be handed over to unconscious, lifeless, simple matter. Water is unconscious. Soil is lifeless and simple. You cannot attribute this miracle to them. It is impossible. So the gathering of causes is a type of prayer We just bring the causes together to ask God. But those who have gone astray see the result appearing when causes gather, and they fall into the error of thinking the causes did the work. There is a beautiful point from the 32nd word regarding Balaam causes. It says, the only sign that suggests partnership with God is the order of causes in the universe. God created a sequence of causes. This causes that, and that causes the next thing. You have to boil water. It doesn't boil on its own. You need fire. Fire becomes the cause. Seeing this, people think causes have influence. Everything is tied to a cause, they say. That is true, but concluding that causes have power is wrong. The answer is God's wisdom and will require it. And because he wants to display many of his names, he tied effects to causes. He could have created everything without causes, but his wisdom requires it. He shows his knowledge and names through them. But we have proven many times that causes have no real creative power. Real influence belongs only to God. If you say causes have power, that is cause worship. Let's read a few paragraphs from the 27th window proving causes have no creative power. We look at things in the universe, causes and effects. We see that the highest cause does not have the strength to create the most ordinary effect. The most superior cause implies the one with the most apparent power. The most ordinary effect is something simple, like a fruit or an egg. The cause is the chicken, the result is the egg, the bee is the cause, the honey is the result. When we look at this relationship, the strongest cause can't handle the simplest result. If the most capable cause can't handle the lowest result, then surely the weaker causes can't even do. This proves that causes are just a veil. The one making the result is someone else. For example, look at the countless created things. Let's take just one small example. Human memory. Inside the human head, in a space the size of a mustard seed, like a lentil, a green lentil or a red lentil, there is a memory placed there. Look at the capacity of that tiny chip. It's like a comprehensive book, or rather a library. The person's entire life story is written there without getting mixed up. From birth to death, whatever their eyes see, the pictures are taken and saved. Whatever the ears hear, the sounds are recorded. If they eat something, the taste is recorded. Their fears, their joys, all emotions are recorded. Even things touching the conscious or unconscious mind are saved in that tiny space, and it's written without confusion. You meet a man, you see his face, learn his name. The name and face are written together. When you see him again, the name comes with the face. So which cause can show this miracle of power? Is it the folds of the brain? Is it the simple unconscious cells? Is it the winds of chance? Think about the memory cards in our phones. 10 gigabytes, 20 gigabytes. They store pictures and videos. Do we ever say, this phone didn't have a memory card, but over time it developed one and built itself a memory? No, we don't. We know someone designed it. So this miracle of art in the brain can only be the art of a being who wants to show that every action is written down for the great gathering, the day of judgment. He writes a small note, a copy of the great record of deeds, and puts it in the hand of your mind to tell you, look, your actions are being recorded. Just as we think about human memory, compare it to all eggs, seeds, and sperms. They are all little miracles of memory. The seed of an apple contains the life and history of the entire tree. Look at any effect or art, leaves, flowers, fruits, animals, birds. You will see such wonderful art that not only the simple cause, but even if all causes gathered together, they would be helpless to create it. For example, take the sun. It's a huge cause. It seems connected to everything. If we remove the sun, life would stop. It looks like a big deal. But imagine the sun has a will and consciousness. If you said to the sun, "Can you make the body of a fly?" If you asked the sun, "Can you make the body of a fly?" it would say, "With my Creator's permission, I have plenty of light, heat, and colors in my shop. But in the body of a fly, there are eyes, ears, and life. Those things are not in my shop, and they are not within my power." In short, the cause is very ordinary and impotent, but the result attributed to it is very artistic and valuable. This dismisses the cause. I have a memory about this regarding causes. The RİSALE-İ Nur proves God's existence not by trying to destroy the causes. It doesn't say there are no causes. It says there are causes, but proves the cause is too incompetent to produce the result. Think of a garden with tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, wonderful works of art. The causes are soil, water, sun. Look at the soil, look at the water, then look at the tomato. It has a program, colors, shape, taste. Can that mud, that unconscious water, do this? The cause is simple and dumb. The result is genius. In our logic, the cause and effect should be equal. If you see a beautifully tailored suit, you need a skilled tailor. A clumsy, simple tailor can't make a masterpiece. When we look at the soil and then at the flower, we see they are not equal. The cause is not sufficient. The magnificence of the art fires the cause from its job. Also, the purpose and benefit of the effect dismiss the ignorant, lifeless causes. Look at the heart, its chambers, valves, the nerves opening the valves, the pumping. There is incredible engineering there. Can simple atoms think of this and build a heart? There is design here. Look at the eye, the lens, the lid, the lashes, the muscles turning it up and down. It has so many benefits. Only someone who knows and sees can make this. Can blind atoms do this? No. The purpose and benefit kick the causes out and hand the job to a wise maker. Also, the decorations. Look at the colors on an apple, the patterns on a bird's wings. Why act so fancy? Why so much decoration? Simple water and soil don't care about fashion. These decorations point to a maker who wants to make himself known and loved. Now let's read the first impossibility from the Nature Treatise. We mention only 2 or 3 of the many impossibilities. First, imagine there is a pharmacy filled with hundreds of jars containing different substances. A living paste was asked to be made from these chemicals. A life-giving, wonderful potion needed to be created. We came to the pharmacy and saw many of these living pastes and potions. We examined each of them. We see that for each jar, exact amounts were taken with a special scale. 1 or 2 grams from this one, 3 or 4 grams from that one, 6 or 7 from another, diverse amounts. If 1 gram too much or too little is taken, the paste won't come to life, it won't show its effect. We examine the portion too. A substance was taken from each jar with such a special measure that if even a tiny particle was missing or added, the potion would lose its property. Let's reread this to really get the picture. Think of a pharmacy. Well, in the old days, pharmacists used to mix medicines in the back. Now it's not like that. So think of it as more like a pharmaceutical factory. There are hundreds of jars, raw materials. We need a living paste, a mixture. We look at the result. It has very specific ingredients, 1 gram from here, 2 from there. If you mess up the amounts, the medicine doesn't work. It loses its life. It might even become poison. It requires extreme precision. Now here is the question. Is it in any way possible or probable that the jars could get knocked over by a strange coincidence or a stormy wind and only the exact required amount spills from each one? Let's go back to the origin of the universe. Before trees and animals, there were just atoms, particles moving around. From the perspective of causes, it's all random: lightning, wind, chaotic movement. Could these random movements result in perfect works of art? The text asks, could a storm hit the pharmacy, knock over the first jar, and spill exactly 5 grams because that's what the recipe needs, and then stop? Why would it stop? It could spill 6 or 7, or the whole jar could dump out. Then the second jar falls and exactly 10 grams spill. The third jar exactly 2 grams. Can the wind do this? Okay, let's flow together and make a potion. Even getting the amounts right is impossible. Imagine the human body. 70 elements: gold, copper, iron, zinc. There is a specific amount of each. Could the universe, through random movements, gather exactly the right amount of iron and gold to one spot to make a human? It's impossible just to gather the materials, let alone mixing them into a living system. Is there anything more superstitious, impossible, and absurd than this? If a donkey were to double its donkeyness, become twice the donkey it is, and then turn into a human, even he would run away from this idea, saying, I do not accept this. Even a donkey, which is proverbial for being foolish, wouldn't accept this. Why does the donkey run away? He says, this is too stupid even for me. Don't make me accept this. We were reading this once, and a brother came in who works at a pharmaceutical factory. I asked him, brother, do you make medicine like this? Just shaking jars and letting things flow? He said, who would take that medicine? No. He told me, even with our high technology and sensitive scales, sometimes we miss the exact target for the active ingredients. We measure the final pill, and if it's off, we have to destroy the whole batch. It becomes poison. Even with intelligence and technology, it's hard. So how can chance, which messes things up the moment it interferes, be the creator? Can you say the whole process from start to finish is luck? Is there anything more absurd? Just like this example, every living thing is a living paste, and every plant is like a life-giving potion. God calls the earth a pharmacy. Everything on earth, plants, animals, is like a medicine. And unlike our cold, dead pills, God's medicines are alive. They grow. To attribute these living medicines to simple causes like nature, soil, and water, it is 100 times more unreasonable, impossible, and absurd than the jars in the pharmacy being knocked over to make the potion. If your mind thinks the pharmacy storm story is impossible, then thinking the universe happened by accident is a million times more impossible. In short, in this great pharmacy of the universe, the living substances are taken with the scale of destiny and decree of the eternal wise one. It requires limitless wisdom. Look at herbal medicine these days. They find hundreds of benefits in one plant. This can only come into existence through a limitless knowledge and an all encompassing will. The wretched person who says it is the work of blind, deaf, boundless flowing elements and nature is more foolish than the drunken idiot who says the potion made itself by the jars falling over. The text calls nature blind and deaf. Can a blind thing create art? Can a deaf thing hear our needs? Yes, that disbelief is a foolish, drunken, delirious raving. Finally, let's look at the conclusion in the sixth matter. It summarizes it beautifully. Just as a perfect pharmacy, where every jar contains living pastes and potions taken with wonderful and sensitive scales, undoubtedly shows a skillful chemical and wise pharmacist. When you see the medicine, you know there is a pharmacist, and he must be skilled. In the same way, the pharmacy of the earth, considering the 400,000 types of plants and animals, which are living pastes and potions, shows the pharmacist of glory to even blind eyes, to the degree that this earth is larger and more perfect than the pharmacy in the market. If the pharmacy gets bigger and more perfect, the master behind it must be greater. Using the measure of the medical science you study, it shows and introduces the wise one of glory, the pharmacist of the great pharmacy of the earth, even to blind eyes. Yes, glory be to you, we have no knowledge except what you have taught us.